G'day everyone, welcome to the Outback Packers podcast, the podcast where two mates from all the way across the world have a yarn talking Packers football and the green and gold. I'm Nick Gregory, joined by my co-host, as always, Joe Pearson, this time with special guest, the co-host of Lombardi's Bar, Jimmy Christensen. Jimmy, how are you feeling today? It's definitely an up week after five straight losses. The vibe is different for once. Give me your thoughts.
Man, I forgot what this felt like. I've been the last 5 weeks. I've been so used to just waking up on Mondays, just miserable of how horrible we've looked. But I feel great, man. This game, we had our struggles. We were down 14 points in the fourth, but we fought back for once, and we snuck that win out. And so it was. I'm definitely on cloud nine right now. And we have Packers again in like 2 days, so this is fantastic.
I'm loving it right now because I have the week off from work, so I've been actually able to sit at home and watch yesterday's game, and I'll be able to watch it again Thursday. So I'm happy either way, win, lose, or draw. But the win makes it even better.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I'm jealous of you being off for the week.
I took it off because I had plans, but they didn't work out. So now I just get to sit home and do nothing for a week.
A little staycation, binge Netflix.
Yeah,
and chill out.
Pretty much. Me and the dog. And then getting to jump on here with the podcast with my buddy over there, Nick, and of course having you join, and we're very appreciative of it. But we got a lot to talk about. So, Nick, what's your first lineup here?
So yeah, I think as always, we'll start with going over what's happening in the division and the NFC, kind of cover our home base. I think I just want to start with that crazy game against the Bills Vikings. I mean, what an ending! I think that was if I read it right, I saw something that said it was the first time in NFL history where a defense scored a touchdown in the last minute of the game while they were down and actually won the game. Just the circumstances that it took the Vikings, who I'm still not fully sure on, to really take that win against the Bills, who is, by all accounts, the best team in the league. It's actually pretty big for them, and they're 7-1 now, or 8-1 now. So it's a bit scary to kind of see that now in the division. It's a pretty long distance. We're not really used to being on this end of that.
I got to watch a lot of that game, and I have to say the Vikings got away with a lot of luck. Because I know a lot of people are saying that Justin Jefferson catch is better than the Odell catch, and I got to completely disagree with it. While it was a good catch, I'm not going to discredit him. He was able to make the play. But if it wasn't for the defender holding the ball, there would have been no way for him to actually catch it because his hand was up there. But I really believe the ball would have been deflected off his hand had the defender not had it in his hands, and he just pretty much plucked it away from him. Now, like I said, I don't want to discredit him at all because, he's an amazing player and he has the talent and all that. And there's no doubt he makes some amazing catches. But yeah, the Vikings were getting away with a lot of luck yesterday during their game. And I was really not happy with them because, as Jimmy would know, that we miss out on a lot of the game when these early games go to overtime because Fox won't cut away or Fox won't give you an alternate channel to watch on. So we're having to sit here and fight through the Vikings and Bills to wait for I think I missed the first 8 minutes of the game yesterday because of that. So I wasn't happy. So I was just ready for the damn thing to be over with.
Go off your point though with the Vikings getting lucky, that's weirdly what makes me nervous about them because half the time to be able to go on a Super Bowl run, you need talent, but you just need that luck on your side. And after yesterday's game, it just seems like they have all the luck right now with him botching the snap on the 1 yard line. So they get that defensive touchdown, that catch, that defender being there and just pretty much holding the ball while Justin Jefferson does an impressive catch, but taking it out of his hands. And that's the last thing you want a team with talent on the roster to have is luck, especially getting in the second half of the year. But I don't like seeing.
But
are
they gonna peak too soon with the luck? Because a lot of times you want the luck later in the season, more so than the beginning of the season, because the luck is what's going to get you through the playoffs, as we've seen with the Packers and the championship games and stuff like that, losing to the 49ers on some crap stuff. I mean, I agree with you that they have a lot of talent, and Minnesota has been collecting talent for years. but I wonder if they're peaking too soon with their luck and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be interesting.
That was the whole Bills argument too. Like they were saying after the first few weeks, and now that is a good point because now it seems like maybe their luck's starting to run a little dry. Back to back losses, and they're now third in their division, which is just absolutely wild. With the Dolphins and Jets ahead of the Bills, no one would have guessed that happened, but
Right.
yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I hate to say it. They kind of give me they remind me shades of that 2019-2020 Packers stretch where the Vikings do, where they're kind of getting some of these wins that maybe they shouldn't be getting, and they're kind of getting that label of like fraudulent. And I wouldn't go that far. I think they do have a lot of, like we said, they have a lot of talent, but it is quite funny to see them just like mysteriously get these wins again and again. And it's like, oh man, like why can't we have some of that luck? Even this one more win would have been nice earlier in the season.
I'd hate to see him with an actual quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to put Kirk Cousins down too much because he is capable, but I'd hate to see him with a star like a Rodgers or a Mahomes or a Herbert or something like that. I think they would dominate the division for years to come if they had a capable starter. Or I mean, a star starter, not a capable. Because I wasn't the hugest fan of Cousins coming out. I did predict he was going to go fourth round when a lot of guys were saying, "Oh no, he could touch second or third." But I just saw a lot of it where he wasn't going to be that star starter. He was going to be the guy that if you put the people around him, he would be able to perform, but he was never going to be able to build you were never going to be able to build a franchise on him like a Rodgers or a Mahomes or a Brady or somebody like that. So I've never been the real big fan of him, but I did see that he was going to be, what's the word, steady.
Yeah.
So I would hate to see Minnesota with a great quarterback, and hopefully we won't have to see that.
Yeah. He's the NFC's Jimmy G. Like he'll do what you ask for him. He won't make spectacular plays, but he is the definition of a game manager.
Yeah.
They
without the injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. And well, speaking of, star quarterbacks and prospective quarterbacks, I want to take a look at the Bears for a quick second because, in another in division game, the Bears, Justin Fields, I mean, we're talking about how we feel about quarterbacks coming in out of the draft. Justin Fields is a guy that I was absolutely in love with. I mean, I thought he was almost just as good as Trevor Lawrence and, really, really rough first season. But we're starting to see the flashes this season of him as an athlete. I mean, my God, what a special runner. What an insane, unique ability to kind of stretch the field and threaten the defense with that third dimension. And he's also a good passer. I mean, he tries to throw the ball as often as he can. Even far back as college, he never really wanted to be that scrambling read option guy. It just so happens that he's just so goddamn athletic. He can do all these incredible things, and it's so cool. I think that he really is going to be successful in this league, whether or not it's with the Bears. But while we have him this season, it's actually like as long as it's not against our defense, which I'm sure will be a very interesting second game. It's really fun just to watch him kind of tear it up. And as a young guy who's copped a lot of flack early in his career, it's really nice to see him have a bit of success.
I want to go back to something you just said. You really thought he was just as good as Trevor Lawrence?
Absolutely. I mean, not. I wouldn't say he was exactly at the level, but I mean, I feel confident saying that he was probably like 90% of what he could do as like a prospect. From what I saw with him, I really, really love Justin Fields, and I'm surprised he didn't go higher. I mean, really.
I won't say I thought Trevor Lawrence was the be all, but I think there is a big difference between. I think Trevor Lawrence has more arm talent than Justin Fields has. Fields has the ability to escape the pocket and stuff like that and make plays on the run, but I thought it's hard to compare the two. It was kind of like comparing RG3 with Andrew Luck. They're both talented quarterbacks, but they're completely opposite ends of the spectrum. But that's really interesting. I guess I didn't know you thought that way, but Justin Fields is, I didn't get to watch the Bears game much, obviously, because we didn't have it on TV. But I've heard a lot of people saying this was a coming out party for him, but I still have to give him the stigma of being an Ohio State quarterback. We really don't get a lot of success. It's kind of like we talked about, was it last week or the week before, about Alabama quarterbacks, where they come from big programs, they have a lot of success at their programs, but then they make it to the league and they really don't do anything. Now, I know Tua has been having some success lately, so he's kind of broken the mold on that. Maybe Fields could break the mold on the Ohio State stigma, but it's still the Bears, man. I mean, they've had their own former quarterbacks say that it's the place where quarterbacks go to die. I mean, eventually they've got to find somebody who's going to be able to run that franchise as a quarterback, but I don't know if Fields is going to be that man. I don't know if he's going to survive long enough in the league to be the guy to lead the Bears. But good for them if they did. I mean, Getsy's working. Former offensive coach for Green Bay. He's been the offensive coordinator in college. Maybe he's really turned, getting into Fields' head and getting him turned around. But I don't know. It's like we're probably going to be talking on later, and we kind of talked a couple episodes ago, where stacking successes. I'm not ready to crown somebody this great player or this amazing, until they start stacking those successes. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. No, you do have to give him, at least in my mind, I give him a little bit more credit for the stuff he's doing with his supporting cast, because he has probably, it's them and the Giants right now for the worst wide receiver room. He has, with Montgomery and Herbert back there, a couple good running backs, but I think that offense just evolving from what it was at the beginning of the year to now kind of embracing his athleticism. I think that's them realizing they won't have anything in the passing game right now. Maybe in the future with Claypool a little bit, but he still has those mistakes. Like he threw a pick six to let the Lions tie it last week, or this past Sunday. But then he bounced back that next series and had like a 60-yard touchdown run. So you have those up and downs like you do with any second-year player, but he definitely has the talent. There's part of me, I want him to succeed. I just don't want it to be with the Bears. Like I hope they let him go and try to draft somebody else, and then he can go somewhere and just be really good.
Yeah.
But he definitely has talent.
Well, it's not going to matter because the Lions are going to get Lamar. That's the big thing. So we're all screwed.
I'm still secretly hoping the Packers somehow get Lamar.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Oh, that'd be so fun to watch.
That would be, and this has really drove a wedge between me and a lot of people. But I don't want Lamar. I know he's talented and I know he's in the MVP conversation, but man, there's something in his play style that I'm not a huge fan of. So if it were me, and let's say Rodgers does retire or the Packers trade him for whatever package they can get out of him, I'd say run with Love for a year and see what the draft class is the next year and maybe go off of that. Instead of spending the large money on, another quarterback where we're already in the hole because of a star quarterback. So, I mean, I see the appeal of him because he can move, he can throw the ball, but I don't know. He's just not accurate on that pass. And that's what drives me wild is, he can move and he can throw, but where the hell's the ball going? And we're already complaining about that with Rodgers, where when he's letting them loose, he's either overshooting them or undershooting them. And one of these days the legs aren't going to be there for Lamar. And what's he going to be like when he's got to be a strictly pocket passer? So, it is what it is. I mean, if somehow they were to pull it off and end up with Lamar, I'm not gonna, boo-hoo him or whatever. But I'm not one of them fans that's gonna rip apart every move that the Packers made. I'm gonna say that they have a plan, and I'm just gonna go with it until it bites them in the ass, like the Rodgers thing right now.
Yeah, it's definitely doing that right now. But of course, then he'll have like a good game, and then make people be like, see, and you guys wanted to bench him. It's like, yes, he's had a good game. He's also had 8 not so good games. So
yeah, it's like, yeah, you know.
But Nick, what have I been saying all along? If he would buy into the fucking LaFleur system,
yep.
he would be an amazing quarterback. We saw it the first 2 years. He bought into the system this game against the Cowboys, and he flat out told it. And LaFleur even said that he was calling the plays, but he left the options up to Rodgers. He bought into the system. It was 62% of runs this game, or play calls were runs this game. That's the highest ever for the Packers in the LaFleur system with Rodgers at quarterback. So sorry to interrupt you, Nick. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
No, yeah, I totally agree. It's just really funny you see a lot of these fans. I mean, obviously on Twitter, it's a mixed bag, as we all know. But you know, Rodgers will go the whole game and make just horrible throws and miss people and miss, you know, wide open Josiah DeGuara, and he gets that one touchdown, and they're like, "See, look, he's still good. He's still good. I knew it. He's still good."
Yep.
And they just ignore 95% of the rest of what happens because of that one play, and it's pretty funny.
I know. I don't know. It's such a weird thing because then it turns into you just hate Rodgers. It's like, no, I don't hate Rodgers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give him like a special treatment. Like if you are sucking, you're sucking. Like there's no way around it.
For sure.
Like I can't be like, he's doing great.
For sure.
Well, I'm going to do my weekly Yogi Berra quote. It's deja vu all over again, because if you think about it, Jimmy, we've got to keep in mind Nick's knowledge doesn't go past 2016 when it comes to the NFL. So I'm going to come at you with this one. So,
all right.
But think about it when Favre was doing the same shit.
Yep.
You know, this is pretty much identical to the Favre situation. And it boggles my mind because Rodgers kept saying, I don't want to be like Brett Favre. You know, I want to put myself with the fans of the Packers. Well, now he's starting to drive a wedge between fans with the Packers. And it's the same thing that Favre did. And, you know, if you even look at it, the play styles are even matching up where Rodgers is doing what Rodgers wants to do the same way Favre did what Favre wanted to do. You know, the injuries. How many times do we have to hear about the fucking thumb before we get sick and tired of it? You know, if he's that hurt, don't play. And it's the same shit we said with Favre. You know, if you're that hurt, don't play. But it's so amazing that it just keeps repeating on this loop. I hope if Love becomes the franchise quarterback after Rodgers and we have another 20 years of, you know, Hall of Fame quarterback, he doesn't pull the same situation. But I've always loved Rodgers. I was a big fan of his when he got drafted, even though a lot of people were shitting on the pick because of, we got Brett. I wasn't the biggest fan of Love. I understood what they were trying to do, but I wasn't the biggest fan because I didn't really like his style. But eventually you just got to cut your losses. I mean, yeah, he's coming off 2 straight MVPs, but I know we've turned this into the Packers segment when we're supposed to be talking about around the league.
Yeah, we can pause and come back to it. I'm sure we'll probably
Oh, God.
If you've listened to any of the past episodes, you know I go on my wild rants, and you should hear the unedited versions because they're probably longer, but I cut them down a little bit in post-production.
That's the way it goes around here.
Awesome. That's beautiful. I usually just have Todd yelling at me to stop talking. That's how I know when to stop. So.
Nick's got that Australian ice where he hasn't told me to shut up yet, so I just keep going until that happens.
Yeah, one day.
Yeah, well, I guess with saying that, might as well dive into the Packers segment, right? I mean, yeah, this game, as you all know, there's so much to talk about.
Nick was texting me all last night about how hyped he was over this, so yeah, we got to definitely talk about this game.
I think the exact quote that I texted him was like, "My God, I'm so vindicated after those 3 Christian Watson touchdowns." I mean, my goodness, this is a guy. Even, you know, coming into the draft, I wasn't too sure if I wanted the Packers to really like actually take him, such a high pick. But when, you know, I'm a kind of guy that once they take someone, I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm on board. Even Quay Walker wouldn't have been my first choice in the first round at all, but. They're on the team. It's not my choice. It's not their fault. I trust the coaching staff and scouting, right? So, long story short, I'm absolutely in love with Christian Watson, head over heels. I mean, the like absolutely game breaking speed. I mean, this is a guy who in college, like he was recorded in practice as like a mid 4.2 40, and at the combine I think it was like 4.31 or 4.32 or something. But again, it's a super fast guy, and we kind of get to see him come out of his shell and learn a bit more skills in the NFL. And I didn't think that he would transition like this to the NFL, but he's already kind of flashing more developed route running, and he's getting more chances to run down the field and across the field. And with that, he already has such a built up run blocking ability. And I one of the biggest reason why I love him is because whether or not he's getting the ball, he's always a plus on the field. And he's, like I said, fantastic blocker. He opens up the offense. I mean, the split of like points and production with and without him on the field is like astronomical. It's not even really the same offense. And yeah, there's this guy that I'm just like, I could spend hours gushing over him, and I'm so happy for him and his family that he's finally gotten that spotlight in the game, because he really deserves it.
I'm going to let Jimmy respond, and then I'm going to go on another one of my
rants. No, I'm with you. This game was great, and it's nice to see them using Watson too, instead of these like just end arounds over and over again. Like, he's actually getting routes. This is growth in Rodgers. It took until he was year 38, but Watson had those 2 drops in the beginning of the game, but he kept going back to him. And in the past, I feel like you would just see Rodgers then either get him out of the game or just not go back to him.
It was necessity.
Hey, it worked this time, I guess, but it was great. And like you said, for his family too, because they've been, after that whole concussion thing and everyone's saying he's not tough enough to play in the NFL, which was completely asinine.
So unfair.
Like insane. Like, they weren't saying that about Rashawn Gary the week before when he had a concussion. But Christian gets it, a thing that happens to players all the time, but he's too soft. It was just so dumb. But just for his family to then kind of pull up some receipts on people, and also just have their moment of saying, like, you guys are all idiots. Like, you judged him off of 8 weeks and he didn't even play half of them. So yeah, it was great. All right, Joe, go on this rant. I'm ready.
Here we go.
Well, I'm not going to say it. I'm not really against Christian Watson. I mean, Nick and I have talked countlessly about Christian Watson. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming out of the draft. I mean, I saw the appeal. I sound like I'm repeating myself with the Lamar thing, but I do. Big, fast, sturdy guy, capable of doing anything you want him to do. And I kind of mentioned this earlier on one of your fellow shows from GameOn Wisconsin. I kind of piped in on the final dump. I still see Watson as maybe a slightly better MVS. You've got the speed, you've got the size. He's developed. The one thing that I'm really surprised about is he's really developing his route tree. That was one of the big knocks I had on him coming out of college, was he had a very limited route tree, and I'm really glad to see him start developing his route tree. And I mean, he's that deep threat that the Packers really have always wanted. But he's going to have a lot of drops, and that's going to come with it. He's going to make the plays. He's going to have the games. But just like we saw with MVS, he's going to have one game, and then he's going to have 2 or 3 where it's like, okay, what's going on here? But again, he's a rookie. He could develop. I mean, Devontae had his issues coming out. James Jones had his issues coming out. Jordy, we know, had some issues coming out. So, I mean, it's possible that he can start developing his hands a little bit better. But, that I just right now see him as a slightly better MVS. And, I'm really happy for the kid. You guys touched on something I never even thought about. And I did see it on Twitter where, his family were basically saying, okay, where are you guys at now? You guys were ripping on him. You've been ripping on him all season, and now you love him, what the hell? But, that's the life of an NFL player or any kind of sports player. One day people are going to love you, and the next day people are going to hate you, and you've got no say in it at all. But, I again, like I mentioned earlier, let's stack those successes. this next game that the Packers are going to play, it's going to be a tough one because they've got a solid run defense. The Titans have a solid run defense, so the Packers are really going to have to rely heavy on that passing game. So it's if he comes out, and we'll see it later on in my over unders, see what we all think of it. But let's say I'm not expecting 3 touchdowns and 150 yards. You can't expect that from a guy every game. But let's see, if he puts up 6 catches on 9 targets for 50 yards and a touchdown, I would call that building on success. So I'm not ready to crown anybody anything yet, but I'm happy for this game. I'm happy he really had a breakout game, and I just look to see him build on the successes, and hopefully he can develop into that number one. It's really looking promising with him, Dobbs, and Torrey, and I really wish they would get Torrey more involved because he's shown flashes so far, and it pisses me off more and more that I keep seeing that quote come in, where Rodgers told reporters that, well, I told Toure, I don't know why they keep putting you inactive week after week. You could be a star, but yet, we're only seeing maybe 1 target a game or 1 catch a game or whatever. So, but the receiving core is looking good. But I wonder if, like I kind of jumped in on you, Jimmy, I really think the reason that he kept going back to Christian wasn't just to, help build him confidence, but it's necessity. We're running out of guys, and they're not, I know there's not a lot to pick from right now, but they're not even trying to bring guys up from the practice squad. Obviously, Winfrey would have to be signed to the active roster, but they've still got, Freifogel, they've got Fulgham, they just signed a guy on the practice squad, Jake Cotton, I think is his name. Mm-hmm. They're not even trying to bring guys up to fill in these spots. And then I know this is a polarizing guy, but they're not even using Amari. And, when you've got a receiver room that, the list of injuries is longer than the list of guys you've got in the room, you've got to use what you got, and they're not. So I really think a lot of it is Rodgers, and he's got to get over this diva shit of, I don't want to throw to that guy. He dropped it, 5 games ago, and I still haven't got over it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with Amari, and I know we'll touch on it later, but punt return, no thank you. On the offense, so he's had a couple games where he's made plays.
Totally agree.
Watson obviously showed what he can do, and to your point, Joe, like it's his to differentiate himself from MVS is going to be that stacking on success. Like he's going to definitely fall into the MVS category if it's 100 yards here, disappears for 4 games, shows back out for another one. So like you said, stacking on that success, and I don't know, it's going to be interesting. Maybe we get Cobb back this week. He's eligible if they activate him or not. So that'll be another weapon. But then there's also part of me that's a little nervous about that because it's going back to Rodgers might focus in on him a little bit more because that's his safety blanket rather than looking to a young guy like Toure or Watson. But we'll see. I think that's going to be the theme of this week for a lot of shows is stacking success because we got one, but we don't really have a playoff shot unless we win like 6 more. So
yeah. That guy on Twitter, Big B, Brendan, he was talking to Cobb, and Cobb said that if the IR didn't have the time limit thing, he would have been active this week. So I fully expect to see him against the Titans, or however that fits with the timeline. That really like you said, really interesting how it changes the dynamic of the target share. And I just want to quickly go back to something that we just kind of recently talked about, and that Christian Watson is kind of like the MVS. And the thing that gets me so excited about him is that he's already fully capable of what MVS was doing in his final year in Green Bay, not even half a season into his career. And he's like, he has the potential to be even better than like a prime AJ Green kind of guy. I mean, it's just like the fact that this is a starting point, and MVS is a guy that I also loved, even with the inconsistency. The fact that we're starting here is like so good. And then, like we said, when Dobbs comes back, when Toure gets like fully involved and we kind of like do a bit of a rinse of this room and clean it up. Once Sammy Watkins, does whatever he wants to do with the aliens, we can. It's a nice future we've got here, and so it's really nice to see that whether or not Rodgers is going to be around to see it. And I think let's kind of talk about Rodgers. I mean, like we said, it was a kind of a different game plan. A lot of focus on the running, right? I think it was 37 rushes total, rushing attempts. And I mean, Aaron Jones finally gets to carry the offense through those, big boxes, 8-9 man boxes. They keep pounding it. He keeps turning these, what should be a 2 or 3 yard loss into a gain, or he breaks even, or he's just, this is the way that we thought the team was going to be run coming into this season. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think he just loves playing against the Cowboys because that's when his best games seem to come out. I think we should play the Cowboys every week and just let Jones eat. But, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, let LaFleur run his system and the Packers can be a successful team. And part of LaFleur's system is it's a running system. And, Jones is that weapon that if you don't use him, you're hurting. And we've seen that throughout the season, that if he's not getting the touches, we're not winning. And, even against Buffalo, he was gouging Buffalo, but, obviously some bad luck on parts with that game. But, I understand that we've got two decent weapons in him and Dylan, but you got to go with your hot hand while he's hot. You can't go back and forth. I understand Dylan's your thumper and you want to get him in the short yardage stuff. But I think AJ, other than being kind of a smaller back, Aaron Jones, other than being a smaller back, has shown that he can get the tough yards. So, I mean, ride the guy that's hot. Don't, cool him off. Let him get hot. And, what was it? 2019, he had double-digit touchdowns. By this time that season, he had 8 or 9 touchdowns alone. He's shown he can produce. So with, like I mentioned earlier, with the lack of guys in the receiving room, you've got to rely on somebody. You might as well rely on the guy that is giving you the stats you need.
Yeah. It didn't make sense how they haven't used him as much this season, but yeah, he had a great game. Him and AJ Dillon both. We saw AJ kind of return to his form from last season, but Aaron Jones it stinks because this is a real likelihood, unless they restructure his contract, that this might be the last year of him, just because he is a $20 million cap hit next year. And he's not playing himself out of some money right now. He's playing better than he ever has. So it's going to be hard to go to him and be like, hey, I know we owe you $20 million and you just had a career year, but can we pay you less money this year? But if the team's going to make the playoffs, have a chance at the playoffs, it starts and ends with Aaron Jones.
100%.
Unless Rodgers turns back into MVP Rodgers, which is very unlikely without Devontae Adams. And that's more so of a knock on Rodgers than the offense as a whole. I think we need to be seeing him get 19, 20 carries a game for that to happen.
You touched on something, Jimmy, and I want to put the question back in my mind. And I've been asking a lot of people this lately, and it kind of derails us a little bit from talking the game, but I'm going to put the question up to the both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Did Rodgers make his past receivers, or did his past receivers make Aaron Rodgers?
I think Devontae is really the first one. Well, that's the thing though, because after all the pass wide receivers, he had the next guy up after that. After Driver, Jennings, after Jennings, Jordy, then Devontae. So there is an argument to make. I don't know. It's kind of like that Bill Belichick, Tom Brady question, honestly. They're both he always two great receivers, great players. The difference is Rodgers had another great receiver, whereas whoever left had a bad quarterback. So I really don't know. That's a good question. I don't think we'll ever really have the answer to, but this past season, I think he needed Devontae more than Devontae needed him, is what this last one showed. But for the once past, I don't know, because he was also at like the heights of the Aaron Rodgers power. So
Yeah, and I think, for all the stuff that Rogers says about, he loves like timing based offense and that kind of thing, in his prime, he was never really that like that he wasn't that the same guy that Brady was as far as, stacking up small gains and consistently timing every single throw. He made a lot of his money on the second reaction, on the scramble, and not like that was the whole offense, but I think a lot of it was that not just because those guys were so immensely talented, because they were, but it was kind of the perfect blend of intelligence and like awareness after the snap, and kind of their ability to be on the same page. I think was a lot of the value he got out of those guys. And I mean, like, look at Cobb. I mean, how many times have we seen, it's a third down, he jumps out of the pocket on the right side and somehow finds him? I mean, that's not necessarily just on him or just on Cobb. I think it's really a perfect combination of a lot of these guys, like doing exactly what fits his strengths. I mean, I feel like with a lesser quarterback, they would have produced less. I don't think that's really much of an argument, but I feel like, yeah, he definitely benefited from it. And we're seeing it now when he's older and he doesn't have a lot of that athleticism anymore. But I mean, look, like 2011 Packers, that's like probably one of the top 3 greatest receiving cores of all time. So it's pretty hard to not say he didn't benefit like incredibly from that, right?
Well, that's what I mean. You look at some of the other guys that left the Packers, be it, released, free agency, whatever. James Jones ends up at Oakland and becomes nothing. Jordy goes to Oakland and does nothing. Jennings goes to Minnesota, and I think he went down to Miami for a little bit, and they pretty much, he pretty much did nothing. So, I mean, there is an argument to say that Rodgers did help them, but then you look at what he's doing now without Devontae or one of them big star receivers, and he's not doing anything. You could even go back to when Jordy tore his ACL. They had to bring in James Jones just for him to do any kind of, have any kind of success. So, I mean, what's the difference now? I mean, he doesn't have. Is he not making friends with these younger guys? I mean, is it this weird thing where, he's old man Rodgers, stay off my lawn? So I really don't know. That's why I've been asking a lot of people that same question, just because it throws me for a loop, because for a guy that is a multi-time MVP, has put up at least 4,000 yards in every season he's played, it's amazing that we can have that big a regression without a, consensus number 1 receiver. So that's the end of my derailment. We can get back on topic.
No, yeah, I think it's definitely a worthwhile question. And like Jimmy said, it's really like the Belichick Brady situation. I mean, it's so hard to evaluate because at the end of the day, they're both such like treasure troves of skill and talent. I mean, you can't really separate them, right? So, yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that we were able to watch that. So yeah, I think keeping on this game, how do you guys feel about what's going on with this defense? I mean, this is kind of a game that was a bit of a shootout. 31-28. This defense is not bad. I don't think they have their moments, they have their mistakes, but I still don't feel comfortable saying that they're a shit defense. I mean, where are you guys at with what Joe Barry's doing here?
I go back. I think it's a good defense. Like, it has all the talent to be a great defense. And they do, like you said, really good things. And there's been a lot of games where maybe when they let up points, like thinking about the Giants game, the Commanders game, where they were just worn out because the offense couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, when your offense just puts you right back on the field, like it's just human nature to eventually become exhausted. And this one too, I think honestly the most frustrating part about this game was it seems like the opposing offense will always find a play that works for them and just continue to go back to the well, and we won't stop it. Like the draw play. Like, how many times do you have to let a draw play go for 10 plus yards before you think like, hey, they're probably going to run this draw play again on 2nd and 10 like they did the last 6 times. Like, it's just, or a QB sneak. And I know those are effective, but we know that's coming every 3rd and 1, every 4th and 1, they're going to sneak it on you.
Mhm.
So just make me try one time to stop it.
And not just sneak it, they were getting like multiple yards on top of it with that damn
Yeah.
play. Oh,
We almost stopped them. We had them. I thought they were going to blow the play dead because Dak stopped moving for a solid couple seconds and then ended up getting the first down anyways. I was like,
Ugh.
we just can't stop that play, I guess. The ref knew too. He's like, just give them time. They'll give it up.
And to me, it kind of feels like they have this mentality of, oh, well, there's always the next set of downs. You know, like they're always, as long as it's not the red zone, they're always kind of happy just to give up, you know. Like there's that situation kind of like the last like 40 yards, 2nd and 4. And like, you know, Joe Barry's like, all right, cool. You know, CeeDee Lamb can chill 6 yards, you know, 2 parts past the sticks. It's okay because we have the next set of downs. And like they don't even really try until he's caught the ball to cover him. I mean, it's like, I feel like we've seen this multiple times now where, yeah, like I said, you know, they're just like, they're content to just give up an easy short down because they're like, oh, it's okay. We'll get him on the next one. Like, it'll be fine. It's all right. And then this like keeps going and going and going.
The frustrating thing to me too, sorry to cut you off, Joe.
no,
it was
you're good.
just a super quick, like on those plays, I think the situation was like, it was 21-14. The Cowboys were driving down the field again and Jair like stopped like a screen pass or something. And then does like a little celebration, like saying he's locking him down. And I was like, this is not the time, my man. Like when we're doing stuff like that, like you're kind of saying like they're a little too happy after the team's doing really well. You stop them on 1 first down, but it's like, maybe don't do that stuff.
The whole thing when
we're down right now.
The whole thing when the quarterback overthrows a receiver on a go ball and the DB is just like waving his arms.
Oh yeah, and they freak out.
Yeah.
Same thing.
You know, the thing is I kind of enjoy him doing that because it's the thing that I've said the Packers have been missing all year, and that's heart, that's excitement, that's fire, that's drive. So I don't want to sit here and say, okay, don't do that anymore, because then if he stops doing that, you know, how downhill is this team going to go? Because that just snuffed out a flame that possibly could be picking up. But
yeah,
like Jimmy said earlier, or just was talking about, it's hard to have, and I've been watching this. I'm a Hawkeye fan, so I've been watching this week in and week out with the Hawkeyes too, where the defense can make a stop. The offense will go out there and have a 3 and out, and then the defense is right back out on the field. Well, you do that too many times, you're going to wear down and you're going to lose games. So, I mean, I was really excited. I mean, Rudy Ford, who would have thought Rudy Ford was going to be, you know, come out and have a 2 interception game and, you know, what was it, a couple tackles, and, you know, I did think he did, and I did think Darnell Savage did look good coming out of the slot.
Yep.
And he was actually tackling, which was actually surprising me a little bit. You know, I almost fell over just after the first time he hit somebody. I was expecting that dive out of the way type deal he does. Jair, and this is another common thing that everybody seems to talk about, is when they're playing zone is when they seem to be getting gouged. But when you put them man to man, Jair's locking them down. Rasul's struggled a little bit, but Rasul's been pretty much locking stuff down. I know Joe Barry was kind of asked this. I think Wildy asked him in his press conference today, you know, had Eric Stokes not been injured, would he ever have considered putting Darnell Savage in the slot position? And Barry just kind of gave him a no answer on that. You know, well, I don't know. We're not in that situation, so I can't really tell you. So that basically tells you, no, he would have never put Darnell Savage in the slot if Stokes was still there. But, you know, the Packers did pick up Jonathan Abram. I'm really kind of excited to see that play out. I know he kind of had a rough couple of plays on special teams, but, you know, the guy only had been on the roster for 3 days prior to the game. So you're not.
And really... that personal penalty, when they showed the replay of that, like it literally, like both players bumped heads and the guy gave him like a friendly slap on the head after. And then they walked away. Like it seemed like it was nothing. And they got offsetting penalties for that. It made no sense.
Well, the refs are always good for a shit penalty or two with the
Yeah, yeah.
Packers involved. So, um, I it, I think this is definitely not the defense we were told it was going to be, but I think they're starting to come around. Even Quay looked like he was playing pretty good. Isaiah McDuffie, I've really been surprised with how well he's been playing for a guy who was supposed to be just a special teamer.
Yeah.
So, I really I I think the defensive line is the only thing right now that I would have, and maybe the pass rush. I thought even the pass rush was holding up pretty good, beings that they didn't have Gary.
Mm.
But I think right now the defensive line is the only question mark I have, and that's really weird considering who we have on the defensive line. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, we spent a first round pick on. Lowry is always usually a steady guy. He's never going to be that world beater, but he's usually that steady guy you can rely on to at least fill a gap or whatever. And Jerron Reed played decently, but I still don't think he's lived up to, you know, any kind of hype that they could have put on him. So like I said, the pass rush seemed pretty decent without Gary. Kingsley is looking pretty good. Even Jonathan Garvin looked pretty good in some spots. Preston's always going to be Preston. He's either, I don't think he's ever going to be that star anymore because, he's pretty much starting to hit that age where he's going to hit that peak. And so, yeah, this, again, I know this was a recurring thing, but let's stack some successes. Let's see what happens against the Titans. And who's after the Titans? Is it Philly after Titans?
I believe so. And they just lost today as we record, or as we were recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew they were down. I didn't know they fully lost. So,
Mm.
yeah. Well, they lost against the Commanders, and the Packers even lost against the Commanders. So maybe the Commanders are on the way up. So
that's the team we needed to lose too. That's the thing that stinks. Is like now that we needed the Eagles to just continue their unbeaten streak, just to give the Packers a little more hope for the playoffs. Like need the teams that beat us to fall off, and nope, they got that win.
That's the way it's going this season, right?
Yeah, even the 49ers too. I was hoping the Chargers could get them.
Yeah,
but nope.
Yeah. I think with this defense, like with us winning this game, it's a real back into the more hopeful mentality. Like I was like last show, I was pretty down. I'm usually the optimistic guy, but I was pretty down. And the only thing
he was already counting us out. We were done.
The only thing
he was looking forward to the draft season.
Me too, man. I was like, "There's no way in hell we're coming back from this." Just lost to the damn line.
I honestly thought we were going to score 0 points this game. I mean, like seriously. But
I think we were having a Freaky Friday moment last week because I was the one trying to keep us into the thing and not ranting so much, and he was the one that was down on everything and ranting on stuff. So
yeah,
everyone needs those days sometimes, man.
Yeah, I mean, like to me, the thing that holds me back from actually wanting to be happy about this team again is just the fact that Rashawn Gary's injured, because there's no way that we can do really much of anything in the playoffs if we don't have Rashawn Gary, because there's no edge depth, and that's what we were talking about coming into the season, is that there is no solid edge 3. Kingsley is developing into a fine edge 3, and I think next year he will be a great rotational rusher. But as a rookie, you can never expect anyone to live up to that kind of top 5 pass rushing threat that Rashawn Gary is. And it's just so hard for me to get back and invest into this team and be like, yeah, anything can happen in the playoffs when you're not really doing anything with Kingsley Nagbury and Preston Smith. And then, what if one of those guys gets injured and someone has to rotate out? What if they get gassed again? And you got Jonathan Garvin and Ladarius Hamilton starting on the edge once again. And you're like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here? It's just it just sucks that this is kind of where we're at, and at a kind of a point in the season where it could have been a bit of a hopeful thing, and we don't really have many big season-ending injuries besides Stokes and Rashawn Gary. It just kind of sucks that this is where we're at. Because it was nice to see more out of the defensive line, and I really want them to get Wyatt involved more. But yeah, it just kind of sucks.
Yep. Yeah, I think we're gonna see a lot more blitzes the second half of the year.
Yeah.
With the 4 that we have rushing with Preston, Kingsley on the edge, Kenny in the middle, whoever they decide to pair next to him. Like you said, hopefully Wyatt. They're going to have to get creative. And we saw even Darnell Savage was being sent in on blitz a lot from that nickel spot. So
I don't want to see that again, though. He was running. It was like he was lost or something. He was running clear upfield. I don't want to.
At least we're trying something though.
I like
that's some innovation out of Barry.
And like Dak is a big guy as well. Like I think he's probably got like a good 5 inches on Savage. So it's pretty funny to watch him try and wrestle him down.
It's not like he's like a Jair tackler either.
Yeah,
he's gonna probably hit him and bounce right off.
I think the only,
but you know,
sorry. I think the only counterpoint to what I've just said about Rashawn Gary is if they kind of force Quay Walker to be that edge guy, like to be the consistent blitzing pressure dude, like I mentioned before, that kind of Devin White rookie role where he's just like attacking the quarterback and just getting in their face. As you said, if they end up blitzing a lot more, or if they kind of try to test him out like a Micah Parsons, Kyle Van Noy thing where he's on the edge as an actual like position, I think that could be somewhere where they could get a bit of pressure, but I mean, he's a rookie again. Sorry, Joe, you go.
Yeah.
No, you're good. I wonder, though, if they would consider maybe doing a 3 inside linebacker set, because Isaiah McDuffie has that speed where, you know, when he was rushing the QB, he was getting back there. It just, you know, Dak was getting the ball out before getting hit and all that stuff. So I wonder if, you know, maybe Devondre or Chris Barnes or somebody gets back, that they'll run, you know, Devondre, Quay, and McDuffie out there. You know, Quay be your QB spy, Devondre your deep back guy, and then McDuffie rushing the QB. But, you know, I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Back in 2010 when the Packers won the Super Bowl, who were their edge rushers? Guys that they pulled off the street. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, you know, they, with the guys that they have right now,
it's going to happen.
Like I said, this game, these guys really look good. I was surprised. I really thought that there was going to be no pressure against Dak because Rashawn was out. I really thought it was going to be rough, but, you know, Kingsley was getting back there. Garvin made a play or two. I know they're getting Tippa back, but I'm not really looking to see much out of him outside of special teams because I really don't think he's a speed guy, but he's got nothing behind him. He'll get washed out pretty quick. But, you know, do rush a safety or a DB back there. I just don't want to see Darnell Savage doing it again because I could not believe where he didn't even get touched, and the offensive lineman had him clear like 10 yards out of the play. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see that anymore. There's 2 things I don't want to see out of Darnell Savage anymore. I don't want to see him play center field, and I don't want him rushing the fucking quarterback anymore.
Those are fair things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the last thing I kind of really want to go over is just, like you mentioned earlier, Jimmy, this Amari Rodgers thing. I mean, I don't understand how, at this point in the season, 9 weeks in, I mean, Jesus, dude, just like don't put him there. Like, you're not getting anything. And I think Andy Herman made a fantastic point during the game. It's like there's such high risk with him, right? It's like he might fumble the ball. You know, they literally scored a touchdown off of one of his fumbles this game. It could have ended the game in regulation. And again, he just fumbles it and just like fucks it up, or, you know, he like bobbles it and manages to catch it again, and then he goes for like, you know, a 3-yard return or whatever. But there's no reward, like there's no upside with Amari Rodgers on punt return. I mean, he's not a fast player. Yep. Like, that's not his fault. It's fine. It's whatever. But like, why him? You have Keyshawn Nixon. I mean, you had Christian Watson, who was an All-American kick returner, and I'm sure he could adapt. And, you know, you have Kylan Hill there, like just someone, dude, like how is this still happening? He almost has more career fumbles than receptions. I mean, it's just like, why?
Yep. That's the thing. It's just weird.
Yeah, I agree. But I can't give up on the guy because there are some people just can't play special teams. I mean,
Yeah, put
some
him on
people
offense.
just
It's just he should be done with special teams. Keep him on
right,
offense.
but I've seen so many people that just say we need to cut him, we need to cut him. Well,
Mm-mm.
I understand from the special teams perspective not having him out there, but we don't know what he can do in this offense. And the limited snaps he's been getting and the passes he's been getting thrown to him, he's made pretty good plays on. So he
Yep.
might develop into something, but if he's not getting used, and now with Cobb possibly coming back, he's going to get used even less. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what I keep going back to it and saying, I don't think Aaron Rodgers likes Amari and doesn't want him on the field. That's the whole reason they brought Cobb back. That's the whole reason you don't see anything from him on offense. So I don't know. I have I'm not going to say high hopes for him, but I just can't give up on the guy because I think he has the potential to be that slot guy who can do some of the gadget plays that they want.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think he's going to succeed more if Aaron's not there than he would if Aaron is there.
Yeah. That goes to Rodgers' whole like comment earlier in the season when they asked about Amari and he just said he returns for us now. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, really
Bullshit.
all you need to know about Rodgers. Yeah. And that's the thing is like you said this, he's making plays when he's on offense. It's, I wonder how much, and this is just probably me being dumb and speculating, but how much of it too is like he was drafted to pretty much replace Cobb. Like he's taking his role, and that's Rodgers' buddy. So I don't know.
Well, that's what I've said all along. I said, think about when Amari was drafted. Number one, he was basically being compared to Cobb. Basically, everybody was calling him Cobb 2.0. Number two, he was drafted during the time Rodgers was throwing his hissy fit.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the weapon that they gave him because he was throwing his hissy fit. Well, then right after the draft is when they traded for Cobb and brought him in. So, everybody knows Rodgers has, what's the word for it? He has a chip on his shoulder, but he holds grudges. And I think he has a grudge against Amari just because of that. He was drafted during when Rodgers was throwing his hissy fit, and he was drafted to be the Cobb player. And Aaron just didn't like that. So I don't know. I'm not saying Amari's going to be this next great receiver, but you can't give up on a guy when you won't even allow him out on offense.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm with you.
I know Nick's tired of hearing me pound the table for Amari, so
Yeah. No, yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, as we all said, I think we all have kind of the same thought on this, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hopefully next week, whether it's Keyshawn Nixon or someone else, there's just a bit of something, a bit of juice, a bit of energy, because like I said, this game could have and should have been ended in regulation on multiple opportunities, whether it was the Christian Watson missed catch in in the second quarter, the 3rd and 6, or no fumble kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, this, and the fact that I have the ability to say that about these two teams is incredible. I mean, Dallas was the 3rd best defense by EPA coming into this game, so it's promising, and I'm ready to talk about where we're going next week. But this was kind of a good starting point as far as, if you want to call it a comeback or whatever.
All right, I got 2 things before we jump. One is I agree with you that they should put somebody else back there, and I'm surprised they haven't put Torrey back there, at least to give him some kind of snaps, because he's not doing us any good just sitting on the bench. And number 2, how many of you guys how long did you guys hold your breath after Christian Watson did his backflip?
That did scare the shit out of me. That scared me.
I was waiting. I just sit there staring because I celebrated the touchdown, and then I just sit there because I watched him do that backflip, and I'm like, he's going to pop a hamstring. That son of a bitch.
Yeah, that scared the crap out of me.
I always go back to that preseason play with Jake Kumro, where he catches that big long touchdown, does a celebration, fucks up his shoulder, and doesn't play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and that's what I was waiting for with Christian Watson, because he just got back from having hamstring issues. That the first thing you're going to do is do a backflip after a touchdown? Come on, man. I hate to steal something from ESPN, but come on, man.
For real.
That's why we love it.
That was wild.
So yeah, I mean, let's get into
Somebody's already made shirts out of it. Did you
Yep.
guys see
Yeah,
that? Somebody's already made shirts out of the backflip.
yeah. The guys from Chasehead TV made a bunch of shirts and they gifted them.
Oh, figures Nagler and Benke are always doing that shit. All right, go ahead, Nick. Sorry, I keep derailing.
So yeah, let's get into this next game. I think we've covered all we want to talk about from this game. This is a really interesting one, I think, versus the Titans at Lambeau once again. 2 home games in a row. I think, like we said, a good chance to build and stack success. This is a team that I think is kind of what the Packers almost envisioned a little bit for themselves. I mean, they're built quite similar theoretically to the Packers, but just with a lot kind of lower quality like talent. It's a team that runs and lives through their rushing offense. They have a tough defense and they play hard and fast. They're smart. And it's just kind of how you would have described the Packers theoretically, right? At this point in the season, if you hadn't watched them play, this is what you would have thought. And so it's kind of interesting to see this. And, obviously Matt LaFleur's old team, it's really funny to see how they still keep a lot of the same philosophies, even through coaching changes. Yeah, I mean, where are you guys at with this matchup? I think it's going to be a really fun game.
Well, I just have a question before I have any comments. Do we know who's starting for Tennessee?
At what position?
I think Tannehill
will be, yeah.
Is it Tannehill? Okay, well, I didn't know. I knew Tannehill was hurt there for a bit, so I didn't know if he made it back or if we're going to be dealing with
he's back in now, so it'll be Tannehill.
Okay. So then they're going to just feed Derrick Henry 100 times in the game and call it good, right?
Yeah. No matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough. I like the common theme is, you got to stack successes. So they have a hell of a front seven. I couldn't tell you what their rank is in the run game right now, but
second in the league.
I know they're, I was going to say, I know they're pretty high. So as much as I want to say, go against what we were talking about earlier, I'd love to feed Aaron Jones more, but I have a feeling that we're going to have to try to lean on the pass. So hopefully Christian Watson will, be able to stack his successes, maybe get Cobb back into the game and give Rodgers another safety blanket. Torrey, we're out another couple of weeks for Dobbs, right? But I haven't even heard any updates on him, so he could be out for a while. I mean, who knows? Aaron Jones loves playing against the Cowboys. Maybe A.J. Dillon will do the same thing against the Titans, because that was A.J.'s breakout game a couple years back, was the Titans game. So maybe we just feed A.J. Dillon a ton, and he'll go off and be King Dillon or King Quads or whatever instead of King Henry. I don't know. I really struggle with trying to think of stuff to say about the Titans because I really haven't paid attention to them a lot this year. Like I said, about the only thing I knew was Tannehill was down for a bit, so that I think they had to start Malik Willis, and Nick knows how I am about when the Packers had to play a backup quarterback. So if it's Tannehill, we have a chance, but if they throw Malik Willis out there, we might be screwed. But I think the key is you just got to stop Henry and try making Tannehill beat you, and I don't think Tannehill can. So if they can stop the run, which the Packers have been struggling with mightily for the last dozen years or whatever it's been. So, I really don't know. And with the short week, it's going to be hard to – I know it's short week for both of them, but – Devontae Wyatt got kind of nicked up. I know he came back into the game, but, for a guy that you're going to have to try relying on to stop the run, you hate to see the nicks in that. I think that's why I've always hated this Thursday game, because I don't know what the statistics are behind it, but it just feels like more injuries come off of having Thursday night games than the normal Sunday, Monday games.
Yeah. With this Titan one too, that team is just so scrappy, and they are well coached to just always be in the battle. Minus that Buffalo game where they got destroyed, like they're 6-3 and I think they have like a negative point differential, which is just wild that they that doesn't make sense that they can do that. But it's just, even last year, Derrick Henry went out for a good portion of the season and they still ended up being the number 1 seed. Like, Vrabel is just a really good head coach that makes them fight. They're super scrappy. They want it to be a physical game. And Joe, you mentioned too, like AJ Dillon's coming out party was against them a couple years ago. And this is one where if they want to be physical and they want to hit you, like, you're going to need your bruiser to hit them back. So this could be another big AJ Dillon game. Like, try to tire out some of the pieces on defense, let him just run right up the middle. And after a game where he looked like last year, AJ Dillon, breaking some of those tackles and turning what should be like 2-yard gains into 10-yard gains, he had a couple times. Like, this is going to be the time that you're really going to need to rely on that. So, and then you can bring Aaron Jones in for a little change of pace. And
it's rough, isn't it, trying to differentiate between the two of them?
AJ and AJ.
Yeah. They're just one. AJ and AJ.
I kind of interrupt. Do we know what the forecast is for Thursday up there?
That's a good question.
No idea.
Because if it's a snow game and it's against the Titans, then we know AJ Dillon's going to feast.
For real. Thursday is a high of 30 degrees. So it'll be cold.
Damn.
Chilly.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because, this is a game that we want to win through the run, right? I mean, we want to keep our identity that we're trying to build on. But I mean, if you look at the way that they're playing up front, as Joe said, their front seven is terrifying. Like, the funniest part is that, as I said before, they're kind of the inverse of the Packers, where they have the real weird talent, and it's not necessarily big name guys. I mean, some of them are like UDFAs or random street pickups, but they're playing so goddamn well. And Jeffrey Simmons, for my money, is the best interior defensive lineman outside of Aaron Donald this season. I mean, he is playing absolutely incredibly well. And that matchup up front, Jeffrey Simmons and Josh Myers and Elton Jenkins, who's been struggling still, that's going to be the decider of the game, in my opinion, because he's a big, strong, physical dude. And the Packers O-line aren't really those guys. I mean, we know that their thing has always been pass blocking and a bit more the finesse, kind of game. Whereas Jeffrey Simmons is a big fucking bowling ball, and he's going to smash your face in every single snap. And it's going to be, it'd be really fun to watch, because that's the way that you kind of take a lot of these veteran quarterbacks off their game, is just by obliterating the pocket in half a second, and on the back end as well. Caleb Farley was just out with an injury today, a herniated disc, I believe, so he'll be out for the season. And
yeah, that sucks. I have one of those, and they don't feel great.
Yeah, and he wasn't playing outstanding, but as still a starter on their defense out. And they have Kevin Byard, who's like an all-pro safety. And again, those guys in the secondary aren't as talented. But like you said, they're just very well coached and they're very scrappy. And I think, it's like, it seems like no matter who they play, besides the Bills, they keep it tight by like one possession every single time. And I don't imagine it'll be any different for this game. It's going to be super rough and super gritty both ways. I think it's just going to be so much fun to watch and see if the Packers do actually have the ability to stay in these games.
Well, Vrabel learned from the best. He came from that Belichick system.
Mm-hmm.
And, Belichick is known for getting every last ounce of every player he's got. So,
yep.
It's going to be good. It's going to be a good one. Like I said, I'm just looking forward to it because I can actually sit at home and watch it. I don't have to try watching it off a computer at work or listening. As much as I love Wayne and Larry, I'd rather watch the game than listen to the game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think...
Are you going to be there, Jimmy?
Yep. I'm going to be there with Todd this week.
Nice.
On Thursday, so... yeah, it'll be fun. My first one of the year, so I'm pumped for it.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, God. We're going to lose.
For sure. You're welcome. I'm going to wear a jersey just to piss Todd off.
Well, I'm surprised you haven't got the crop top jersey yet.
That'll be next. I'll bring a crop top to the game. I'll bust it out after a score. Got to give the people what they want.
the Dahmer glasses and the crop top.
Yeah,
Hot
exactly.
look, hot look of the winter.
Yeah.
All right, I think we got a little bit more to go. Then we'll be good, right, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, let's get into our key players for the game. I mean, I'll kick it off. Kenny Clark. This is the guy that I think he's kind of disappeared after a red hot start to the season. I mean, he was phenomenal coming out of the gate, and he's kind of slowed down a little bit. And I think part of that is kind of getting more of these double teams, triple teams. But I mean, in the past, that hasn't stopped him from producing. You know, whether and I don't think he's super injured or anything. I think it's just a combination of the struggles with the rest of the guys he's with. I mean, having to pick up the slack for Jaron Reed and Dean Lowry is over there just being completely average as he always is. I mean, it's not easy to make your living like that. And I think against this team, it's a good opportunity to reassert himself. He is one of the leaders on that defense. By all accounts, he is the heart and soul of that defensive line. With Rashawn Gary out, you want to see more of leadership from him. And something I wanted them to do for ages is just get Kenny off that nose tackle spot. He's not as big as a lot of other defensive linemen. Get TJ Slayton in to play that nose, that kind of 0-1 tech. Get Kenny out in the 3 tech on the guard, and he can be super slippery and he can kind of run around and, you know, kind of supplement some of that edge presence that Rashawn had. I think it'd be a really good opportunity to just kind of mix it up, and whether it's in that's in with blitzes or whatever as well, or stunts and twists, etc. Blah blah blah. I just want to see him produce more and kind of come back into that role we all know that he can fill.
Yeah, this might be a game where we get TJ Slayton as the nose tackle, just with Derrick Henry just having that big body there to try to help stuff the run. And like you said, him on a guard, especially in a passing situation, I put my money on Kenny to win that battle.
For sure. Big boy on big boy. I think it'd be really fun to watch.
I think they need to bring Heflin up from the practice squad. And not just because I'm an Iowa homer, but because I think they're going to need all the bodies they can get against on the defensive line. So use him as one of your, whatever they've been calling it, the call-ups, elevations for the league. Yeah, because I think it's going to be all hands on deck. Get as many of the big bodies out there as you can, because like I said earlier, they're going to win or lose with Derrick Henry. They're not. I think the job's going to be you stop Henry and you make Tannehill try to throw on you, and I just don't think Tannehill's going to be able to carry the game. Now, with Jimmy being at the game, Tannehill's going to go off like he's Tom Brady. And
5 touchdowns.
Jimmy, go ahead. Since you're the guest, I'm going to let you go next.
All right. I already hit on it a little bit, but my key player is A.J. Dillon. Had that breakout game against them last time. It's going to be a physical defense, so we need our physical runner to try to punish them right back. I want to see him go off, and as people were doubting him a little bit, I definitely was one of them during this season at times. Not so much doubting, just confused on where the A.J. Dillon we saw last year had went. But he's a player that needs more than 2 carries and then off the field. He needs to just keep pounding, keep hitting the players, and then eventually he's going to win that battle. So hoping to see a little more out of him this week, and I think he'll definitely have to be a key piece for this running game to work.
I think this would be the game that they need to do more of the 2 running back set.
Yep.
They've been kind
of getting.
Yeah. They've been running less and less of it lately, but I think this is the game that they need to do more of that with. Even if they've got a slot, Aaron Jones out wide or something, motion him out or whatever, or motion him in, or however they want to do it. But yeah, I think they need to run more of the two back set.
For sure.
Enjoy where you at.
Nick, you got anything to add to that, or do you want me to go ahead and do mine?
I think AJ Dillon, he's kind of struggled with his reads and stuff. It's good to see his vision kind of returning and a bit more of that confidence coming back, him punching through the line a little bit, kind of blowing over some of those linebackers in the past game. Nice to see a bit of a return. And like I said, and building on that, nice to see it against a bigger, tougher defensive line who's more disciplined and more keyed into the run. I think would be really good and a nice way to assert themselves and decide what they want to do on offense.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and do my guy, and I kind of talked about him earlier too, but I'm going to look for Isaiah McDuffie. With his speed, and he's really been playing well lately, stepping up for Devondre and Chris Barnes. I, it's really surprising to see a guy who's been more of a special teams guy and somebody who is, I think he was a seventh round pick, sixth round pick, or seventh round pick, to really step up and play like he has. He's been all over the field. He's been that sideline to sideline guy we were kind of hoping Quay would turn into, which we still got plenty of time for Quay to do. But it's really been great to see that speed guy that can rush the QB, who can run with the running back, who can be on the tight end. But that front seven is going to be important. Not only are you going to need a thumper, Quay's been pretty much thumping as much as, when he hits somebody, God, it makes me hurt when I hear that sound. But to have Isaiah go in there and be his running mate, I really love the speed that they're bringing to the game, and I look forward to see him take that next step. Even though I have a feeling that when Devondre's back, we're gonna just see Isaiah go back to mainly special teams. But hey, just like Rudy Ford and I just lost who I was going to mention too, but let them get the reps while they can and let them just ball out. Get, like I just said with the Belichick, get every inch out of him that you can, and if he starts sucking, you've got Chris Barnes and Devondre to lean back on. So yeah, that's who I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I suppose you're wanting me to do my over-unders this week, huh? I really struggled with this week being that it was an actual Packer win, trying to pick over and unders. It's been so easy with the 5-game losing streak picking over-unders, just because like for so long it was the Aaron Jones thing, over-under, 10 carries for Aaron Jones. That one was a steady one for like 5 weeks straight. So I really kind of struggled with these, but I've got 2 Packers and a Titans one. We'll go ahead and with the Titans one. Over under 2.5 touchdowns for Derrick Henry.
Jimmy, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm gonna go under on that one. I can see him getting 2, but I'm holding out hope our offense will make them have to pass it a little bit from being down.
Yeah, I'm kind of at the same spot. I really feel that 2 is always I think a really good number, but 2.5, I think is kind of loose as the secondary has been playing recently. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Treylon Burks kind of sneaks in for 1. I think 2 is a good number. I wouldn't want to go over. I'll stay under.
God, I don't want to agree with you guys, but I think I have to just because of optimism. But I have a feeling. This is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say under just because that's what I'm hoping for. But I have a feeling he's going to hit 3 just because, there's going to be that one play where, let's say Darnell Savage whiffs on another tackle or whatever, and Henry's going to break it late in the game and pull within a score of the Packers. This is in hopes that the Packers are ahead by 2 touchdowns or whatever. But I'm going to say under, but I really think he's going to nail that 3 touchdowns. The next one I'm going to go with is I'm going to go Packers defense over under 1.5 turnovers. Now, obviously, the Packers have had a pretty decent year in the turnover spot for defense. So, I mean, this may be a little high considering, what the Packers defense is. But I set the number for 1.5.
I feel like I'm kind of on the under for this. The Titans play a pretty ball-safe game. I think unless they manage to punch out a fumble on Derrick Henry or something like that, it's not going to be much more than 1, if any at all. I think it's a unit that's struggled to get turnovers consistently, and they like I said, Tennessee doesn't really throw the ball enough to warrant, I think, any big interception. So I feel pretty comfortable going under on this one.
Yeah, all the same reasons you said. I think Titans are conservative with the ball, a lot of running. I don't think we'll just have the opportunities for for interceptions like we want, but I could see, and I don't see Derrick Henry fumbling. The man's hands and forearms are too damn strong.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
I'm going to go over. I think it'll be 2. I think, like I said, if they can stop the run and make Tannehill throw, he's going to give up at least 1 interception. And, Derrick Henry's going to have to get spelled at some point. And I can't think of who the Titans' backup running back is, but I could see them getting him, or maybe even a strip or a strip sack for Tannehill. So I think Tannehill will give up both turnovers. So I'm going to call it not a touchdown, an interception and a strip sack.
Nice.
What's your
I've
last
been
one?
pretty good at these, Jimmy. I don't know if you've listened to this, but I've been pretty good with these. I've been pretty spot on.
It's actually
I'll trust you then.
My last one is Watson over 50.5 yards. I think this is more optimism just because I'm hoping he stacks his successes. I said it in between because I don't think he's going to quite hit that second 100-yard game yet, but we'll go 50.5 over or under.
I think I went under on the other 2. I'm going to go over on this one. I think Rodgers, we saw him target him a lot this last game, and I think the same thing we're all thinking of. Let him get his confidence, let him start stacking some success. I think Rodgers is going to look to him a lot, just try to get him going. So I'm going to go over.
I think that this is a game where Watson gets used more as a decoy, just because the safeties are playing so well for Tennessee right now. I just think he's going to struggle to pop off the same kind of big, massive chunks. I don't feel comfortable with his timing and routes just yet to be producing in that intermediate sector of the field. And I hope that I'm wrong, but I would feel comfortable going under just for this one.
Wow. Watson's your boy, and you're going to take the under on the yards?
I really like this Tennessee defense, if you couldn't tell already. I think this is such a good unit, and I love the way that they play. So I think they're going to hone in on Watson, especially if no one else is in, or if Cobb isn't in. I think they're going to be watching him like a hawk.
I almost set the number at 60.5 because I have a feeling he's going to go for he's going to have 3 catches on like 5 targets for 50 yards. Or maybe even 55 yards.
Yeah.
I'm going to say over, but it's going to be slightly over. It's not going to be – I don't think he's going to have another 100-yard game. But I have a feel – like you said, Cobb's coming back, so Rodgers is going to use a safety blanket. But, I don't think he can stop throwing to Watson. Otherwise, Watson's confidence is just going to go right down the tube again. So I'm going to say he goes 3 for 5 for 55 yards. I haven't decided if I'm going to say a touchdown.
Very precise.
But that's all I got for my over-unders. So
yeah. I think it's a really hard one. I think it's kind of hard to predict just because there's no really they don't have any real tendencies this season. I mean, like schematically and whatever, of course they do, but it's like not really like they really have one distinct go-to guy or one way that they're planning to win every single game. I mean, it really changes every week. So. I find it really difficult to kind of predict exactly what's going to happen every week.
It definitely is. I struggle with the over-unders every week just because you can never tell with the Packers. That's just the type of season it's been this year. Is you can never tell what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about before we wrap up here?
All I want to say is, Jimmy, I appreciate you coming on. I might have to level you up from suck it, Jimmy, to like something else, but I really appreciate you showing up.
Yeah, of course. And I appreciate you guys asking me on. I love coming on different shows. So anytime, let me know.
Yeah.
And we'll make it work. This is fun.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really nice to have a seasoned podcast vet on here teaching us rookies how it's done. Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was really nice.
I'm not a seasoned one yet. Hopefully one day. Still a dipshit, but I'm getting there.
Aren't we all? Yeah, I think that's all from us, guys. As always, you can find us on Twitter at NicholasGRGR and at Iowa_Joe86. The podcast at Outback_Packers. Jimmy can be found at Jimmy_C08. And until next time, guys, see you later.